Public choice economics is a field in economics in which we take what we understand about how humans behave, which is normally applied to humans in the private sector, and we apply this knowledge to humans in the public sector. And what emerges is an interesting dichotomy between how we imagine government works and how it actually works. For an example, suppose we take some problem that we face. And here, as we think about government, let's imagine government in the broadest terms. Three groups of people: voters, politicians, and bureaucrats. And we as a society encounter this problem that we want to solve, and the problem, let's suppose, is that some workers don't earn a living wage. And so the way we imagine government works when we say to the government, fix this problem, is the following. We have the voters whose goal it is to help all people earn a living wage. And the way they go about doing that is by voting for politicians who support living wage laws. Then we have the politicians, and we imagine that their goal is to do what's in the best interest of society. And how do they go about doing that? By enacting and voting for living wage laws. Then finally we have the bureaucrats, who we call the public servants. Their goal, we imagine, is to serve the public. And the way they go about serving the public in this instance is by executing these living wage laws for the good of the poor. And what we imagine happens is unicorns and rainbows, all these wonderful things that will occur if we simply say to the government, fix this problem. Now let's look at the government through the eyes of a public choice economist. A public choice economist looks at these three groups, voters, politicians, and bureaucrats, and understands that these are human beings who face limitations and they have desires. So let's start with the voter. In the view of a public choice economist, the public choice economist says, here's a voter, he's a human being, what's his goal? Well, the goal of all human beings is to maximize their happiness. Now, some people's happiness comes from consuming things, collecting lots of money, lots of stuff. Other people's happiness comes from helping others, from doing good. Economists don't make any judgment as to what it is that makes you happy. We simply say that people pursue the things that make them happy. So here are the voters. Their goal is to maximize their happiness. How do they go about doing that? They will become informed and they will vote if the benefit of doing so exceeds the cost. Now we have the politicians. The politicians also are human beings, which means their goal is to maximize their happiness. And how do they go about maximizing their happiness? By attracting at least 50% of the voters. If the politician does not attract 50% of the voters to vote for him, he's no longer a politician, he's now something else. So the politicians that persist will be the ones that whose goal it is to attract 50% of the voters. Finally, we have the bureaucrats. The bureaucrats are human beings just like the rest. Their goal is to maximize their happiness. And how do they go about doing that? I will argue that the way the bureaucrats go about maximizing their happiness is by crafting their jobs to satisfy their needs. And what actually emerges is not the unicorns and rainbows that we imagine when we say the government should do this.